week. It's 8 o'clock.
Good morning. This is Northern Light for Friday, August 4th. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe.
The part-time emergency room at the Lake Placid Health and Medical Fitness Center is set to close in 2 weeks.
So I think in some regard, many community members are upset about this, but many see this as something that's necessary to make sure that Adirondack Health's main hub, Adirondack Medical Center, is able to survive.
What led to the closure and what it means for local residents just ahead.
This morning, about 16 seniors will get a ride to the Canton Farmers Market with the St. Lawrence County Office for the Aging. As part of the trip, they'll learn about the public transit options that are available to the North Country and how to navigate them independently. More coming up.
And we're headed to Malone to visit a local institution. Bokies is a pink 1950s era diner you can't miss.
It's a place for kind of all ages, but I think it's for young and old and everybody in between. There's something here for everybody.
All of that and more is coming up on Northern Light. Stick with us.
Broadcast of Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio is supported by CCOM Credit Union, serving the financial needs of people throughout northern New York and Vermont, in person, online at ccom.org, and on your smartphone. And the Depot Theater, Westport, a professional equity theater in the Adirondacks, celebrating its 45th season. depottheater.org.
This is Northern Light. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe. The part-time emergency room at the Lake Placid Health and Medical Fitness Center will close on August 20th. Owner Adirondack Health had submitted a closing plan for the ER to the State Health Department last fall. The Adirondack Daily Enterprise reports that the organization received authorization to move forward late last week.
But to some extent, some community members kind of suspected this thing would happen for years.
That's Enterprise Managing Editor Elizabeth Izzo, who's been reporting on the closure. She says the Lake Placid ER used to be open 24 hours a day. That was decreased to 15 hours several years ago, and later to 12 due to low patient volumes. Izzo told Champlain Valley reporter Kara Chapman that, like other rural healthcare networks, Adirondack Health is paring down services in the face of mounting financial challenges.
They had a shortfall of more than $14 million in 2022. The Lake Placid Emergency Room accounted for around $2.2 million of that shortfall.
Right. And, what alternatives will people have now for emergency care in Lake Placid?
Yeah, so in Lake Placid, it'll now take roughly a 12 to 15-minute drive to Saranac Lake's Adirondack Medical Center for emergency care. That's about 10 miles away. Though to be clear, depending on the severity of a person's injury, a patient at Lake Placid's ER may have already been transferred to AMC or to the University of Vermont Medical Center in Burlington anyway. But where we're seeing more people kind of being more heavily impacted by this is in places like Wilmington. They have a longer drive now to get emergency care. So emergency services squads will have to now drive anywhere from like 20 to 30 minutes from Wilmington to Lake Placid to now add an additional 10 miles to that to go to Saranac Lake, or they might have to go to Elizabethtown, depending on the patient.
What are you hearing from the community and local leaders about what they think of the ER closure?
One of the most vocal opponents to the Lake Placid ER closure plan was Wilmington Town Supervisor Roy Holzer. Roy Holzer was really hoping that the State Health Department would come back to Adirondack Health and suggest that they try something else rather than close the Lake Placid ER. And he also mentioned that with the state pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into renovating the region's Olympic and winter sports venues, including Whiteface, which is in Wilmington, he felt the state could have extended a financial lifeline to Adirondack Health to keep the Lake Placid emergency room open. In Lake Placid, the reaction is different. Obviously, the distance to Saranac Lake is much shorter. So The mayor of Lake Placid, Art Devlin, and the North Elba town supervisor, Derek Doty, both see this as necessary to make sure that the main hospital, Adirondack Medical Center in Saranac Lake, survives.
The enterprise has submitted, multiple Freedom of Information law requests to the State Department of Health to try to get a hold of the Lake Placid ER closure plan, but those requests have been denied. Can you talk about the reasons you were given for why they were denied and why you thought it was important to seek out that information?
We've heard now what the hospital has to say, and that's really important, but we want to know the full picture. We want to know as much information as possible, and I'm sure the public wants to know as much information as possible, too. This is a health network that is one of the largest employers in the Tri-Lakes. There's a lot of people who have a stake in this. So far, the Department of Health hasn't given us access to the closure plan, saying that the department typically doesn't release those documents until a determination has been made. So for the past few months, the enterprise has been foiling every so often to try and get access to the documents. But the enterprise now has submitted another FOIL request now that the plan has been approved, and we're still waiting to hear back.
Elizabeth, how are, Adirondack Health and the broader community around Lake Placid seeing and talking about the ER closure just in the context of the state of healthcare in the North Country?
So what's important to note is that rural hospitals often operate on razor-thin margins. Adirondack Health serves fewer patients than metropolitan hospitals, but also faces high costs. They serve lots of elderly and low-income patients using Medicare or Medicaid, which have lower reimbursement rates than private insurance. And because they're smaller, they have to pay more for supplies because they're not purchasing things in as big of a bulk as larger hospitals. In addition to that, they're also in an area where there's a severe affordable housing crisis. Just like every other business, they're struggling to find staff in part because of that. What this means is that the hospital has to also use contract workers to fill gaps, and that costs more than if they were able to hire someone for a position.
And what are the next steps for the ER space?
We've heard that Hudson Headwaters Health Network is looking for authorization to open a primary care center there, and that's got local elected officials excited. Hudson Headwaters is a federally qualified health center, so the hope is that they would be able to serve those with Medicare or Medicaid and fill the gap in services left by the closure of the ER.
That was Adirondack Daily Enterprise Managing Editor Elizabeth Izzo speaking with Champlain Valley reporter Kara Chapman. Izzo says Adirondack Health also got the state's permission to permanently close a dental office in Lake Placid that it says was losing $350,000 a year. The office has been shuttered since June due to staffing challenges.
Listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. It's 8 minutes past 8. Good morning. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Just ahead, Maxville, Ontario comes alive this weekend with the sounds of Scottish pipe bands. We'll hear more coming up in just a few minutes here on Northern Light.
Music by Evan Veenstra in Gananoque, Ontario. Check out more of his music anytime on our website, ncpr.org/_. Northern Light is supported by Adirondack Foundation, helping people and families build a legacy of generosity for the Adirondacks. AdirondackFoundation.org. And Brookfield Renewable U.S., a provider of clean, renewable, and locally sourced hydropower, reminding listeners to please use caution when recreating near hydroelectric dams as water conditions can change quickly. Weather Service says some scattered showers in the forecast today, maybe a thunderstorm. Highs this afternoon ranging from the upper 60s into the mid-70s. Partly sunny skies pretty much through the weekend with highs in the 70s.
A horse in the St. Lawrence County hamlet of Briar Hill has tested positive for the Eastern equine encephalitis virus. That's according to a press release issued Wednesday by the St. Lawrence County Public Health Department. The virus can cause inflammation of the brain and can infect humans as well as horses, although there have been only 8 cases in humans in New York over the past 2 decades. It's transmitted by mosquitoes, so the best way to avoid it is to avoid mosquito bites. Symptoms can also include fever, headache, vomiting, diarrhea, seizures, behavioral changes, drowsiness, and a coma. Children and older adults are at greater risk of serious illness, according to the health department. There aren't medications to prevent or treat the disease in humans, so the health department advises that horse owners ask their veterinarians about getting their horses vaccinated.
For seniors living in the North Country, getting around for basic errands like grocery shopping can be a big challenge. It's especially hard for those with limited mobility or low incomes. This morning, about 16 seniors who live in low-income senior housing in Ogdensburg and DeKalb will be getting rides to the Canton Farmers Market from the Office for the Aging. It'll give them a chance to use their special Farmers Market coupons, but it'll also be an opportunity for them to learn about the public transit options that are available in St. Lawrence County. Our reporter Lucy Grindon talked with Jacob Camaños from the Office for the Aging.
We will be hopping on a bus at the St. Lawrence County ARC, taking that bus directly to the Centennial Terrace as our first stop. Then we will head over to the Parkview Rise in Ogdensburg, and then the Sunrise Valley Apartments in DeKalb. And then we will head right over to the Farmers Market after a brief bathroom break at our Human Services building. The reason we picked the Canton Farmers Market is because it's one of the larger markets, and it is fully registered as a farmers market to use the coupons, whereas some of the other farmers markets in the county, they don't have the license yet for that.
Tell me more about the coupon booklets. How do they work and who's eligible for them?
They are through the Department of Agriculture. It's a federal program for seniors 60 and older through our office, and there are some income requirements for it, so it is on the lower income, but generally most people do qualify. These booklets contain $5 coupons, $25 total. They do have to use them for food so produce, vegetables, and fruit.
Why would you say this service, these individual trips, matter? Who are you trying to serve, and how is it serving them?
This matters because these are individuals that otherwise would not be able to utilize these free coupons for the most part. It really is focused on people that might not be able to get to a farmer's market, might have difficulty with mobility, so the only way to get to it would be to hop on a bus with a wheelchair ramp accessory, which we have on these buses. With grocery prices, with the cost of living, and with all of our seniors nowadays, it seems that food scarcity and more food struggles, we're seeing a lot more of those calls through our office. And this is just a way. It's only $25, but for them, that $25 of produce and fresh veggies and fruit, whatever it may be, they can take that home and they can make a few meals out of it that might be able to help them out financially for a little bit.
So I imagine these people you're trying to serve would love for there to be a regular bus to the farmers market. Why is this only a one-time thing in each place?
For our office, it comes down to staffing and making sure we can serve in all the rest of the areas. And the other side of it is the public transit side of things, which the public transit coordinator, mobility management, Sonia Jensen, is joining us on this trip. She's the one that coordinated all the bus schedule for this. So her part of this is to educate all of the seniors on these trips on how to use our public transit system currently to get back to these markets. She will spend time with each senior if they have questions, and she gives them an information packet with step-by-step guides on how to get themselves back to the market using our current public transit system with all the stops we have.
In your role with Office for the Aging, do you see that there's a need for that education?
100%. Seniors are still kind of confused and not quite sure how to use it, and with limited transportation options, even to like medical appointments, seniors are struggling to get transport to those. More education would be great.
That was Jacob Camaños, Senior Program Coordinator at the St. Lawrence County Office for the Aging. He spoke with Lucy Grindon.
When you drive east out of Malone, you can't miss the pink 1950s era diner called Bokie's. It's become a local institution, and it provides much-needed job opportunities for high school students. NCPR intern Maya Mackey was one of those high school workers and takes us inside Bokie's.
Bokie's is decked out in pink-striped wallpaper with pictures of Elvis Presley and Marilyn Monroe. In the back corner, a group of teenagers are eating an order of poutine. They're giggling and taking pictures of each other. Across the dining room, an older couple is sharing a root beer float and eating fish sandwiches. It smells like grease and buttery popcorn. Carrie Marshall Boulay, the owner of Bokie's Drive-In, bounces around the restaurant, taking orders and talking with customers.
Most days we're pretty busy. It's a little bit of a sensory overload when you come inside, right, Maya?
Yeah, definitely.
This is not the place to go if you want a quiet dining experience.
Right. Yeah,
I think we know that.
Boulay has owned Bokie's since 2011. She's been working in restaurants since she was a teenager. She says that she made it into the food service business not too long after Bokie's was listed for sale. Her father, Brick Marshall, was the real estate broker who listed the building. Boulay says the restaurant is named after a man named Steve, nicknamed Bokie, Richards, who ran it in the 1980s. Since then, she's turned Bokie's into one of the most popular restaurants in Malone.
Every day has a variety. You know, I never kind of know what's coming at me every day.
One thing I've noticed while working at Bokie's is that most of my coworkers were young adults. Boulay says they're her favorite part of the job.
But I do enjoy having, kind of meeting new people every year and kind of employing people. We're up to 42 employees this year. I'm happy to be able to do that because we obviously run on a lot of young people here. Not everybody, but a lot of young people. And there's very few places where high school students can work around here.
Plus, she says it's rewarding to get to see what they do after their time at Bokie's.
All my younger employees that I hire, most of them stay on for years, and then they do things where they go to college, or I went to one of their weddings on Saturday, or sometimes they come in and interview me for the radio that they're working for.
One of my coworkers, Alexandra McKellar-Jones, is working the ice cream counter at the front of the restaurant. She's been working here since she was 16. She's now 23 and a teacher at Chateauguay Central. McKellar-Jones says Bokie's is a place where everybody goes across generations.
We've got an older population, and it's nostalgic for a lot of people. They like to bring their kids and grandkids in.
Boulay agrees that Bokie's is special. Her restaurant is just as much a teenage hangout as it is the preferred lunch spot for older folks who just want a malt shake made the old-fashioned way.
It's a place for kind of all ages, but I think it's for young and old and everybody in between. There's something here for everybody.
I caught up with one of my old coworkers, Carson Hanna, on the phone later. He says because of his job at Bokie's, it's a lot easier for him to talk to people he doesn't know. Plus, he's become close friends with our coworkers.
I think that's really great when you can just get along with people. You know what I mean? You're not like dreading coming into work because of the environment.
Hannah says that Bokie's does more than bring in business from all over town, though. It unifies the community of Malone. As he tells it, Bokie's is a space where all sorts of people get along, no matter who they are.
It's a locally owned business, and it's not one of these like big food chains. This is something that is unique to Malone because there's no Bokie's anywhere else in the world. There might be restaurants that are somewhat like it, but I really don't think there's any other place like it. And I think it's grown so much because of the community.
Boulay pours some butter into the popcorn machine. She says she still wants to see Bokie's continue to grow.
I would like my own ice cream making area. I would also like an ice cream truck.
Oh, that'd be so cool. Could you imagine?
It's kind of in my want list
cool.
as well.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
In the meantime, she plans to sell lots of ice cream and pay it forward to the community she serves. Maya Mackey, North Country Public Radio, Malone.
You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Coming up, it is all things Scottish in rural Maxville, Ontario this weekend. We'll listen again to a postcard from last year's event. Then an announcement about the Beat Authority dance party this afternoon. It has been postponed at the Long Lake Beach because of rain and thunderstorms forecast during the show. That was going to be the Beat Authority live broadcast at the Long Lake Beach from 3 to 5. It is rescheduled for next Friday, though, August 11th. So we hope to see you there. And right now, I give a little bit of a preview of it, but Todd has a closer look at the weather.
Yeah, rain and thunderstorms in the forecast today, tonight. Then it should be a nice weekend with partly mostly sunny skies. Saturday, partly sunny Sunday. Highs this afternoon, upper 60s, low 70s, lows tonight in the 50s. Then tomorrow, highs in the mid-70s, highs in the 70s on Sunday as well. And then maybe some rain Monday and Tuesday of next week. Here's John Warren with outdoor conditions for the Adirondacks for the weekend.
Sunrise will be at about 5:47 and sunset at about 8:15. The high water and muddy trails advisories remain in effect due to recent storms that washed out some backcountry roads and trails and brought down considerable blowdown. Trails remain very muddy, and stewards are asking hikers to avoid high-elevation trails to protect thin soils on summits. Expect to encounter areas of deep mud and avoid widening trails. Plan alternative routes and extra time in the event you encounter impassable trails or water crossings. There is a chance of showers and thunderstorms today, so watch the weather closely. The weekend is looking pleasant, though there could be some fog Saturday night. Water levels remain generally high for this time of year around the region. The Hudson River is forecast to be a bit over 4 feet at the gauge in North Creek this weekend, and the Racket River a bit above 6 feet in Piercefield. Lake Champlain is at about 98 feet, just 2 feet off flood stage, at the gauge above Whitehall. Water temperatures have fallen some and will be mostly in the lower 70s this weekend. The Route 73 shuttles are not running, and parking will be at a premium this weekend due to the nice weather. And finally this week, a reminder that the Marcy Brook Lean-To in the High Peaks Wilderness is unavailable while it's being repaired. The 10 sites near the hiking trail are still open for use, as are other lean-tos in the area. Those are the outdoor conditions in the Adirondacks this weekend. For North Country Public Radio, this is John Warren from the New York Almanac. Online at newyorkalmanac.com.
You're listening to Northern Light right here on North Country Public Radio. It's 8:23. I'm Monica Sandreski here with Todd Moe. Maxville, Ontario air is filled with the sounds of bagpipes and drums this weekend at the Glengarry Highland Games that return today and tomorrow. The music, games, and dancing were actually on hold for 2 years during the pandemic.
The games have been running since 1948. This year's gathering features pipe and drum bands from around North America. I found out last year that despite a pandemic, the crowds and enthusiasm for all things Scottish in Maxville hadn't waned. So imagine a county fair with lots of people, buildings bustling with activities, artisans and food tents. Now give it a Scottish theme with people in kilts, colorful plaid tartans, even on the town's water tower, and pipe bands. Acres of pipers. That's the Glengarry Highland Games. Bonnie North and I roamed the grounds during a day of pipe band competitions. Our first stop, a culinary treat, homemade Scottish shortbread, butter, sugar, and a little flour. Where did you learn to make shortbread?
Oh, I'm self-taught. Yeah. For me, it's easy.
So what are the ingredients?
It's secret, but I can tell you that it takes 2 kinds of flour, 2 kinds of sugar, of course butter, lots of butter, and a little bit of salt.
Are you Scots heritage?
No, I'm Hungarian Irish. My mother was a McCarthy.
Aha, okay.
And my first name's Laurie, which is kind of Scottish.
Yeah.
I'm Graham Ogilvie. I've been with the Piping Society now since 1995, I believe. And so I stopped competing quite a while ago. And they said, are you still going to come to the games? And I said, sure. And they said, well, if you're going to come to the games, why don't you be the master of ceremonies for the Grade 1 Circle, since you're going to be here anyways? And so I've been doing this for about 20 years now as well, and having a great time with it. And in the pipe band world, I'm the pipe major of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Mounties, and I'm also the pipe major of the Ottawa Fire Service. So
what is a pipe major? What is that role?
So he's the musical director of the band.
Okay.
So he's the one that looks after all the music, all the choreography.
What is sort of going on in the minds of a piper during these competitions? Are you thinking music, sound, choreography, appearance, poise, all those things?
It's really the execution of the music that's primary today. In the past, they also used to judge you on your appearance. There's what they call the Dress and Deportment Award. So each of these contests will have 4 judges. There's 2 that will judge bagpipes, 1 judging the drumming, and there's 1 what they call ensemble that judges how the piping and drumming is all brought together into giving that one musical effect.
And outside of Scotland, is this like one of the top competitions?
I believe this is actually the largest competition in the world. And because in Scotland, when they have the competitions over there, they tend to be purely pipe band or purely something else. Whereas when you come here to the Glengarry Highland Games in Maxwell, it's everything. So you've got the pipe band championships here today. You've got Highland dance championships. You've got heavyweight championships. You've got fiddling going on. And probably most important, there's 2 beer tents. So it's got
and
the haggis. Yeah. It's got something here for everybody. So that's why Maxwell's so big compared to other Highland Games, because they've got everything going on here at the same time.
That piper we saw practicing on a green space is Ross Davison, who grew up in Potsdam and now lives in Ottawa. He's a music teacher, saxophone player, and lover of bagpipes. So what is it about the bagpipes that you love?
It's an addiction. You get into it, and there's something about walking around and having that drone sound around you all day, and the people you meet are fantastic. It's a big, small world. For me, it was like, it's you just make friends the world over, and there's people here who've come over from Scotland or who've lived here and have lived overseas. There's a ton of different stories for everybody all over the place. During the pandemic, it was an interesting time. Everyone was reaching out over any form of social media, anything they could. I was taking lessons with a fellow in Scotland over Zoom. As were a lot of friends, and there was a lot of contests and recitals and everything kind of being broadcast so we could all keep connected. But yeah, it's just being around it and being part of the society, I should say, and just feeling there's nothing like the sound of a well-tuned bagpipe. It's just kind of this sparkly air all around you if it's done right, and when you bask in it, it's great, and this is your chance to do it. So.
The Glengarry Highland Games opened a couple of nights before our visit with a tartan ball and traditional sword dancing. But there was a lot to see during our tour. Highland dancers, artisans, a fencing competition. The opening ceremonies for the 73rd Highland Games were at the grandstand and included the song Flower of Scotland, frequently performed at special occasions and sporting events as an unofficial national anthem of Scotland. The words refer to the victory of the Scots, led by Robert the Bruce, over Edward II of England at the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314.
O flower of Scotland, when will we see your light again? That fought and died for your weeded hill and glen, and fought against him. Proud Edward's army, and sent him homeward to think again.
Those opening ceremonies also included Canadian Mounties on horseback, young dancers, a parade of Scottish clans, and, of course,